It's in direct contravention of the spirit and letter of the law, runs afoul of decades of Supreme Court precedent, and threatens to cripple the CPSC's ability to carry out its life-saving mission. Diverse opinions improve safety. Silencing voices of subject matter experts with whom you politically disagree does not make the government more efficient. It just leads to more unnecessary deaths and more unnecessary injuries. And with that, I turn it over to Commissioner Alex Hoehn-Saric.
Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate that. Appreciate for people being here today. As Daniel mentioned, I haven't received official notification from the White House of the president's desire to remove me, but Acting Chairman Feldman has locked me out of the agency and is preventing me from performing my duties. As he has mentioned, my colleagues, Mary Boyle and Richard Trumka, also did receive outreach from the White House. You'll hear from Rich in a minute, but Mary is sorry that she's not able to be here in person, but did ask me to convey that she is here in spirit. Now, the administration's actions are really a disservice to the American people and ignores the rule of law. The CPSC plays a vital role in preventing dangerous consumer products like lead-filled toys from reaching consumers' homes. Since the start of the administration, the president has demanded that the CPSC, a legally independent agency, stop all regulations and cut staff without regard to the effect on product safety. As a result of the fork in the road offer, for example, approximately 24 employees are being paid not to work on safety. But that wasn't enough, and the White House is pushing for more heads. As it is, CPSC staff is overwhelmed and failing to keep up with the safety goals set by the Commission. Critical vacancies, such as the head of compliance and a grants officer to run the agency's pool safety and carbon monoxide poisoning prevention programs, remain unfilled. My colleagues and I have been pushing to turn this around. Last week, we moved forward with a proposed rule to prevent lithium-ion battery fires in e-bikes. Fire just a month ago killed 3 people in California, including a 6-year-old girl. And the agency's full funding that we received through appropriations, which were signed by the president, we sought to fill critical vacancies and rebuild a beleaguered agency. This brought the attention of DOJ, and immediately afterwards, this illegal attempt to remove us by the president happened. To be clear, the action is contrary to law and Supreme Court precedent for over 50 years. But worse, it reflects a disdain for the agency, one that's simply trying to save people's lives and prevent injuries. CPSC sets safety standards for consumer products such as children's toys, infant products, and adult portable bed rails. It provides consumers with information about how to protect themselves and their families through the smart use of products like portable generators and beach umbrellas, and it conducts scientific research into product safety. Our removals are the first step in eliminating the CPSC and slotting what remains in the basement of HHS. To those at the agency, I ask you to stay strong and keep doing what you're doing. It's really important. I plan to fight my removal and continue to fight for the agency in the coming months. So thank you, Daniel.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And now I turn it over to Commissioner Richard Trumka. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for convening this today. Fired by the president for standing up to keep Americans safe and fighting for workers' rights. We were fired 45 minutes after we said that DOJ couldn't come into the CPSC and start gutting the agency that keeps Americans safe in their homes. Fired just one day after we publicly said that we would stop anyone from messing with our workforce. We said we wouldn't let any workers be arbitrarily fired from their life-saving jobs. And fired just 1 week after we advanced a rule to stop e-bike batteries from starting fires and killing people. The message is completely clear here. The administration doesn't want anyone around whose driving force is to help the American people. We did what any patriot with a heart would have done in our shoes. And we were able to do it because we're an independent agency. We can follow the facts and do whatever's best for Americans. Our illegal firings would zap that independence from the agency, and the firings better stop, because the American people can't afford to lose any more members of staff at this agency who are already stretched thin, stopping products that could kill babies in their sleep, that could give kids lead poisoning, that could strangle older Americans. There are known safety solutions that we need to get across the finish line that we're working on today. We're working on solutions to save over 100 lives per year from carbon monoxide poisoning, to save 100 lives per year from toxic dusters, to stop gruesome deaths of young children from corded window coverings, from button batteries in toys, from water beads, from neck floats, to stop tens of thousands of amputations from table saws, and to stop rockers like the Fisher-Price rock and play tied to over 100 infant deaths. If we lose anyone else at CPSC, the American people will not be protected from dangers that they can't see coming in their own homes. If this agency is controlled and gutted by DOJ, everyday Americans won't be able to trust that the products they buy are safe. Or worse yet, they'll assume that they are, and they'll only find out that they're not when someone's hurt or killed. But here's the good news. The president does not have the legal authority to fire us. The law and 100 years of Supreme Court precedent make that crystal clear. So the court should have an easy time righting this wrong so that we can get back to work and stop any attempts to compromise this agency's vital mission. I thank you all for putting this together today. Thank you to Senator Blumenthal and Representative Schakowsky for your constant support of our mission. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And now I'll turn it over to Representative Jan Schakowsky, a devoted advocate for product safety and the ranking member of the Commerce, Manufacturing, and Trade Subcommittee, which has jurisdiction over the CPSC.
Well, thank you so much. It is unbelievable that this small but mighty agency would be turned on its heels for the amazing work that has been done. I have to tell you that most of my career, I have been working on product safety, and the CPSC has been doing an incredible job. I just cannot imagine the children and adults are going to be left without the kind of legacy that we have seen so far to keep them safe. I'm just absolutely livid over this, and we are not going to give up. You know, this is an illegal firing because the Consumer Product Safety Commission is a separate agency. They have a term limit. They have not exceeded that or met that term limit yet. So going in and just saying it's gone is illegal, and we're going to fight back. I'm so excited that we're going to be able to continue to say to consumers, and especially our children who have been fighting like cats and dogs to make sure that there is someone somewhere that is saving them and fighting for them. We aren't going to quit. This is a fight to the finish. I yield back.
Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Senator Richard Blumenthal, an accomplished and dedicated product safety leader in the United States Senate.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everybody on this call, most important to the commissioners who have really dedicated their lives to the cause of product safety and are taking this courageous and strong stand. I also want to thank Trista Hamsmith on this call, who has been a relentless crusader for safer products in memory of Reese, and I have been proud to stand with her. And thank you also to Janet McGee, Parents Against Tip-Overs. You know, thinking over the decades that I have fought for product safety on window coverings and rockers and small magnets and beads and all the other stuff that poses such a danger to our children and families, I am frankly appalled and outraged, but I'm not surprised because the Consumer Product Safety Commission has always been a threat to big corporations that put profits over people. And this firing of the commissioners is their fondest dream. They've always wanted it. They've never had Elon Musk and Donald Trump to be their henchmen. Corporate America is fulfilling its goal of dismantling the Consumer Product Safety Commission because Elon Musk shares their values of putting profits over people. It's really that simple. And like the tax cuts that Elon Musk wants for his fellow billionaires, this move is dumb and cruel. It is dumb because actually it wastes money. It is cruel because it puts children at risk, and it is illegal. So I've written today to the president demanding that he reverse this action, that he reinstate the commissioners, that he respect the law, and most important, that he care for the children and families who will be put at risk by firing these commissioners. There's a reason that we have now 80% fewer pediatric poisonings, 80% fewer fatalities in toys that impact children, 40% fewer residential fires. The reason for these kinds of savings in lives and money is the Consumer Product Safety Commission. I'll grant you, a lot of Americans don't have it as a household word. But like many of the most effective protectors of our safety and well-being, they operate quietly, diligently, intelligently, and strategically. And this kind of firing is a direct violation of law. It is contemptible in its impact on consumers and their safety and well-being. And I have written the president demanding that he reverse these actions. But I also think that my Republican colleagues in the United States Senate are going to be put to the test. My Republican colleagues will have on their hands the lives and safety of children who are now at risk unless they step forward and demand that these actions be reversed. And so I think the bipartisan Consumer Product Safety Commission, and it has been bipartisan, should unite Republicans and Democrats. My Republican colleagues should be held accountable if they fail to step forward, because this action commands our conscience and conviction as public officials to protect the lives of everyday Americans. And again, thank you to all the consumer advocates who have fought this battle so valiantly. I'm proud to join you today.
Thank you very much, Senator Blumenthal. And now I'll turn it over to Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, an invaluable product safety champion in the U.S. House of Representatives.
Thank you so much. Thank you for very quickly organizing this incredibly important press conference call, which I know is going to launch all of our activity to make sure that that we can fight this to the last breath. And to my friends, the three commissioners, I'm frustrated and angry. Sorry doesn't even begin to approach the depth of my frustration. And my fellow safety, personal safety champion Jan Schakowsky and I know we're going to lock arms along with Senator Blumenthal to make sure that we don't allow this to stand. I've known, respected, and worked alongside Alex, Mary, and Richard for years now, and your staff, and you don't deserve this treatment. And none of us will lie down and quietly let this happen. These are firings that are yet another illegal act by Trump made without foresight or logic that ultimately hurts American families. We know that children and adults will die as a result of not just the firings, but the dismantling of the CPSC, the proposal to move it under some random division at HHS and shrink it basically down to its studs is going to result in more deaths. The CPSC is an independent agency, one of the most important entities in our federal government, and it is absolutely essential that it remain an independent agency and that it is one of America's strongest safety tools. Now, as you said, while the public may not be aware of its work, it ensures that it keeps consumers safe from injury and death every single day, from car seats for children, baby cribs, strollers, baby toys, bicycles, to your lawnmower, your pool, your spa drains, pressure cookers, bunk beds, you name it. Essentially every consumer good in your household. And I've had the pleasure of working with them closely in a bipartisan manner on drowning prevention and pool safety for over a decade. And we successfully passed laws that keep kids safe from drowning. That is the leading cause of death for children ages 1 to 4 years old through accidental death, but we fight it by preventing suction drain entrapments, sending grants to states and local communities to prevent drownings, and by pushing a public awareness campaign to educate families about pool and spa safety. But this action, callously orchestrated by the Trump administration and the Doge bags that support them, will stymie this work. And frankly, it is illegal, as has been said, full stop. This is an independent entity, and these commissioners cannot be fired without cause, which I assure you there isn't any. And if he's allowed to continue, Trump's partisan persecution will result in America's needless deaths, put our families in harm's way, and most importantly, remove vital protections for our kids. This is an agency that needs to see an increase in funding, not be eliminated. It needs bipartisan leadership, not extremist undermining. And I, along with my colleagues, some on this call, have worked tirelessly to increase that funding so they can protect American lives. And it's unacceptable. And we will do everything. I know I'll do everything I can, and my colleagues here will do everything we can to fight back against this illegal act. We're going to go in the courts, in the community, and in the Congress to make sure that we can stop them in their tracks. And I'm ready to do whatever it takes alongside you. Thank you so much for organizing this.
Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Trista Hamsmith, the founder of Reese's Purpose and Riri's adoring mother.
Thank you, Daniel. Good afternoon. My name is Trista Hamsmith, and I am here as a mom whose life changed forever when my daughter Reese died after swallowing a Benton battery. What I've learned since that day is that product safety isn't political, it's personal. The Consumer Product Safety Commission is the only federal agency whose sole mission is to keep dangerous products out of our homes before a tragedy strikes. And they do that work for the most part quietly, efficiently, and often across party lines. And I have seen that firsthand. When we lost Reese, the CPSC supported our efforts to investigate, to educate, and to change laws. They played a key role in helping us pass Reese's Law, a bipartisan bill signed into law to protect children nationwide. Commissioners from both parties were engaged, compassionate, and solution-focused. In fact, I remember one evening that I had to reach out very late to all of the commissioners, and we all worked hand in hand to make sure that there wasn't a delay in getting to protect our children all across the U.S. It was a late night and early morning, but we all across both lines fought hard and did protect those babies. That's why every day matters. I'm concerned the removal of multiple commissioners and staff creates uncertainty at an agency where consistency helps with public trust. We need a balanced, fully staffed commission to keep kids safe, hold companies accountable, and support innovation to help parents and caregivers keep their homes free from unnecessary dangers. I believe in conservative principles, efficient government, strong families, and personal responsibilities. But I also believe in smart regulation that prevents harm before it happens. And that's exactly what the CPSC does when it's allowed to function as intended with the right mix of voices and experience at the table. Product safety shouldn't be a partisan casualty. It should be a national priority. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now I'll turn it over to Janette McGee, a member of Parents Against Tipovers and Ted's adoring mother. I'm sorry, Janette, we're having audio difficulties. Go ahead and try again, Janette. I'm so sorry, I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, got you now. Perfect.
All right. My name is Janet McGee, and I'm a mom from Minnesota. And I'm just here today to speak my truth. My 22-month-old son, Ted, died in 2016 when an unstable dresser fell on him during nap time. I didn't hear it fall, and unbeknownst to me at the time, his little body absorbed the noise of the fall. And when I went to check on him in his bedroom, our family's nightmare began. We didn't know that this dresser had not only killed other children, but would continue to kill another one a year after Ted died. We later learned Ted was actually one of hundreds of children who had died from a dresser tip over. And we learned this because of the data the CPSC had collected over the years as they had worked to unveil the truth behind dresser tip overs. Many of us parents who have lost children from faulty products on the market have worked for years, literally years, while the rest of the world moves on, to collaborate with the CPSC, manufacturers, and legislators for the greater good of the future. The CPSC is a federal agency that was created over 50 years ago that was tasked with protecting consumers from unreasonable risk of injury and death. And yes, efficiency is important with any system, and the same could be said with product safety. But the reality is we have a system, and the way that they're going about this is reckless. It's not the way to create effective efficiency to protect lives. As a parent, it's hard enough to come to the realization that your child's death was used as a cautionary tale for us as a society to learn how to do better. But now seeing the legislation and all the hard work we've done in memory of our children for the protection of future little lives causes us to stop in our tracks. And it should every American. We live in a global society, and the variety of products on the market today, it's imperative that we have a balanced agency that operates independently and protects consumers. This is not okay, and Americans should be deeply concerned about this and what it means for the future of our families and our children. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you both for sharing your story and talking about the effect that this action could have on parents across the country, families across the country. So without further ado, let's turn it over to questions. And Maggie, Allison, do you want to MC here?
Yes, so we will be taking also some verbal questions in between if you would want to raise your hand. Some that I saw from the chat that we have from you, from Dean Yobi, is do you think the internal CPSC debate last week during the vote on the e-mobility lithium iron battery safety testing proposal also played a role in this situation?
I think that's a question best suited to our commissioners.
I will also
review
bump it in the chat for us as well.
Sure, I'm happy to hop in. The debate, no, but the fact that we voted to go forward with the rule through a clear direction that they don't want to see any safety positive standards coming out of agencies right now absolutely played a factor in this.
Yeah, I would also say there's an executive order out there that is designed to undermine independent agencies' abilities to do rulemaking contrary to the statute that we operate under. And the Republicans pushed back against going forward on those, commissioners, because the executive order would require any proposed rulemaking to go to OMB for review first and changes, and possibly to stop them altogether. So really, it took the power and authority out of an independent agency based off the science that we would do, based off of the comments that we receive from everybody, which could include the White House, and put it in the hands of OMB. That was something that is contrary to the statute and how the agency operates. And that was not something that we couldn't support. And so in the end, wanted to get that out there as fast as possible. That notice of proposed rulemaking to set standards for lithium-ion batteries had been sitting since the beginning of January without action. In the meantime, several people had died, and every day that we wait is really just a delay in safety protections that Americans should have.
Thank you for that insightful answer. We will take one from Reese Jackman next, and I'll just unmute you right now.
Oh, our reporter's asking a question. You'll hear it. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes, hi, everyone. Reese Jackman from Investigate TV Gray Media. Just 3 quick questions. Number one, I know everyone's saying that what's going on is illegal, but just now, the press secretary for President Trump held a press briefing and said that the CPSC is, quote, a federal agency within the executive branch, and that the president is head of that branch. So he has a right to fire people in the executive branch. I wanted to get your thoughts on what you think about that the press secretary's statement. And number two, my second question, for people who truly don't understand, who have not been affected by this, if you could break down what this means, this announcement means for the average consumer in America. And then lastly, what will happen with the current work you guys have going on, such as the lithium batteries? Thank you.
Alex, how do you want to split up there?
Can I just jump in with a quick comment?
Senator.
This idea, and you referred to it, about a unitary approach to the executive branch has been around for a long time. It's never been given much credibility. It's been sort of resurrected for the convenience of this administration, and it is entirely illegal as applied here. And the reason it's illegal is that Congress very specifically made this agency independent and prohibited the firing of these commissioners except for malfeasance and misconduct, a number of specified reasons, because they wanted it to be insulated against exactly this type of political interference. The reason they wanted it to be insulated is that they knew that big corporations, manufacturers, and others would want to destroy it because it interfered with their profit making. The dismantling of this agency in this way runs exactly contrary to the intent of Congress, which can establish independent agencies. It can't make employees independent of the president. The president has a right to hire and fire within the bounds of civil service rules. But the CPSC is not his agency, and he has no right to simply take it apart and violate the law in the way that he's doing. So this idea of unitary executive branch is just a sort of fantastical contraption legally of the far right members of this administration that are serving the interests of big corporations. And to your second point, what does it mean to the average American, to the everyday American? It means that when a product is produced, it may be a toy, like those small magnets that Trista was referring to. You know what happens when those magnets are ingested? They cling together like magnets do. And if they're ingested, they stop the digestive system from working in small children. Blinds that are unsafe can strangle kids. This happens in real life. The rockers that were referred to earlier, the rock and play, kids died. Small kids died as a result. What it will mean is infant deaths, small children at risk of maiming or dying. And, we're talking real life and death stuff here. So the average American should care about what this agency does, and it should not swallow this intellectual contraption of the unitary executive branch.
Thank you, Senator. Just to follow up, I mean, what the senators laid out has been upheld by the Supreme Court for decades at this point in time. So it's consistent with what the law is as it's been interpreted with the Supreme Court. I would say the impacts, clearly there are things that aren't going to go forward. I think the rulemakings largely will stop. And so we won't see common sense rulemakings being put forward. So we won't have standards for important things like lithium-ion batteries, like water beads, which is something that everybody has agreed needs to be addressed going forward. And also you won't have transparency because you don't have the inner gauging that we had amongst the commissioners to sort of look over each other's shoulders and bring up issues as they come forward. I mean, it reminds me back a couple of years ago, we conducted a recall of the Tesla Cyber Squad, which was a youth ATV that didn't meet the standards that were out there. That came up, talked to the company, and ultimately there was a recall of that product. If all the commissioners aren't there, if you have just the administration looking over that, then will all companies be treated the same? Will some companies be favored? Those are the risks that you're talking about when you take people out of the room and you no longer have a bipartisan independent agency that's focused on where does the science lead? Where are the defects and the risks that we're seeing in the marketplace? And what are the steps that we need to take consistent with our statutory obligations to keep American families safe? Rich, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll give you one more example. I think the Tesla recall that we did is a great one. Would we have been able to do that recall if Elon Musk was calling the shots here? I don't think so. If we weren't an independent agency, we'd be pressured not to. And the other example I've got is we have an ongoing lawsuit right now with Amazon. We think that the products they sell on their website, when they're hurting people, Amazon should be responsible for recalling them. They don't want to do that. And there's a lawsuit about that. If this agency is not independent, you saw Jeff Bezos standing over President Trump's shoulder on Inauguration Day, whispering in his ear. Is he going to ask us to drop this lawsuit? If he did, everybody in this country who uses that platform would be at risk. And that's one example. And as to the legal question, the president is acting as if he's already changed the law. He wants the Supreme Court to change the law that upholds our legal removal protections. And so he's acting as if that law doesn't exist because he wants the Supreme Court to change it. They haven't. That battle will play itself out in court, and we'll see that.
I might just add, since we have a pause here, because Commissioner Trumka made a reference to Tesla. Think of it for a moment. Elon Musk is dismantling an agency that has jurisdiction and in fact is acting against his company. That is a picture of abject corruption in real time with real safety consequences. And it's the reason that I have begun an investigation through the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, where I'm the ranking member. I have written to Tesla asking about ongoing investigations that would affect it under agencies that Elon Musk is in fact either slashing or outright dismantling. And these commissioners are being fired simply because they protested the decimation of their agency. It's purely political. It has nothing to do with the standards under the law.
Okay. Jan Schakowsky here. I just want to say a special thank you to the parents, to the families who have been a total support and actually inspiration for much of the work that has been done. They had a place to call to say, this is what happened to my child. And presenting that information is frequent, actually. Sometimes that is the major way that we find out because parents call and parents fight. And I just want to thank them, the two that are here. Imagine having to come to the federal government and not be heard. And that's what we're talking about right now. Are our parents, our people that are suffering, that have lost a child, that have had a tragedy, not be able to really get through. We have to fight back. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Maggie, do you have another question?
I see Trista raised her hand as well. Is there
Oh,
something you wanted to add,
sure.
Trista?
Yeah, I want to point out that it was actually the Consumer Product Safety Commission that truly gave me my voice. When Reese passed away and I was pointed to the CPSC and I first spoke with Jonathan Midget, he was the one that said, no, come give testimony. And at that point in time, they were the ones and actually our acting chair that said, get legislation, go this path. And then through the other commissioners, the support that came in from everyone as a whole, which is why it is so important that we have voices from every stinking side. It has to be all of us together. It can't be one side or the other. And I've said from the beginning, and as parent advocates, Janet, you know, it can't be one side or the other. It takes everything. We all have to work together. Child safety is nonpartisan. It is child safety. It's not political. It is personal. We have to all be in this together. And the CPSC does give the parents a voice, and it does give us a right, and it does give us a place to tell our children's story and to protect others. And if it's not there, where do we have to go?
Trista, I mean, you've been such a fabulous advocate, and I think you point out a really important thing. Every year, the CPSC holds a priorities hearing in which we encourage the public to come and tell us what we should be focused on. That is actually scheduled for next Wednesday, and I was looking forward to hearing from parent advocates. I mean, it's open to everybody from industry, from anybody who comes and wants to come and tell the CPSC what we should really be doing to protect the public. I hope that continues and that there is a hearing next week focused on what our priorities should be, and that those out here should watch that and participate in it as well.
And I would add, that is a useful forum for us to learn most of the time. And a lot of times we're asking questions. Everybody who goes there, I say you ask questions. Ask questions of Commissioner Feldman and Commissioner Ziak sitting in those seats on what they're allowing DOJ to do the agency. Find out everything you can, and let's show up in force.
Thank you. And we have a next question from Megan Farrow.
Hi, thank you. My name is Megan Ferraro. I serve as the Executive Director for the ZAC Foundation for Children's Safety and as Chair of the Steering Committee for the U.S. National Water Safety Action Plan. Wondering what, if anything, you can tell us about the status of the Virginia Graham Baker Pool and Spa Safety Act grant program, which the CPSC currently administers. I see here on the meeting we have Karen Cohn, who lost her son Zachary Cohn, and Katie Taylor, who lost her daughter Abigail Taylor to drain entrapments. And so this important piece of federal legislation is the first and only federal legislation that prevents pool drain entrapment in public pools and spas, and provides a grant program for not only water safety training and awareness, but also for educating pool inspectors and operators on how to ensure that pools are being safely built and maintained. So this is an important piece of legislation and an important grant program for us. And so I'm wondering what you can say about the status of that program.
Thanks for the question. You're right. It's an incredibly important program. It's one that we've been building up at the CPSC over time. And as a matter of fact, last year, we put out a record number of grants. And those are this is the exact problem that we want to focus on. I focused on last week during a hearing, because Congress just gave us $2 million more for the pool safety grant program and another $2 million for the carbon monoxide poison prevention grant program. But we don't actually have a grants officer anymore. We have nobody who's focused on this at this point in time, and there's been a freeze on our hiring. So among the questions that I was asking is, what are we going to do to fulfill our obligations and continue to get grants out there, and encouraging people to be, as a critical hire, to be placed to make sure that those grants are going out. I didn't get any good answers from our executive director. The plan was he said, was to try and get something out before the end of the fiscal year, but the response to who was a silence, because there's nobody there and they can't hire anybody right now. So Representative Wasserman Schultz, who is a huge proponent of the program. She's been a dedicated fighter, as well as you said, the parents who are out here joining us today. And I would say, keep the pressure on. As I said, priorities hearings coming up next week. Ask the questions, because I couldn't get the answers even when I was there as to how we're making sure we're getting the money out the door. And this is the problems that we're seeing when we've been losing staff month over month, and the pressure is to lose even more staff and push them out the door. That undermines public safety. That undermines our ability to do the job that we've been told to do by Congress and by you. And so all I can say at this point in time is keep the pressure up and keep the focus on it.
Keep the pressure on Republicans. Just to state the obvious, we need bipartisan support. There should be. I'm very clear-eyed about the prospects here for Republican support, but we need to hold them accountable. I have to jump off the call. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the Consumer Federation of America, and look forward to joining you in the fight ahead. Sorry to have to run. Thanks.
Senator.
Thank you.
And just if I could tack on, you could look at this as an early test case. If the three of us, Alex, Mary, and I, were still there, you would have our full support for paying out all those grants and making sure we hit another record this year. If those don't go out, that's a choice, and it's going to be a direct, you'll see a direct comparison if they end up putting those out or not. But we'll have to keep the feet to the fire on it.
And while I've been advocating going to the priorities hearings next week, which we're actually required to do, it looks like it was just noticed as postponed. So
they don't want to answer questions.
Or hear from the public, hear from people. So I think they are required to do it. So I'm assuming that they will. Well, I would hope that they do it, and that there will be an opportunity in the future to ask these questions.
I also just did want to acknowledge that I do see that there are some people asking for emails from the commissioners, and we are keeping track of those emails, and we'll send it afterwards. Just a few more questions that we had from the chat before we wrap up was, do you have any indication of what DOJ is doing or will do at the agency? In addition to that, can you talk a little bit more about what the legal fight to challenge these firings will look like?
Yeah, speaking for myself, I have no idea what DOJ is in there doing. They were too cowardly to show their faces to me. They hid in a room off by themselves and sent an email firing me. So I haven't talked to them. Don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to be doing. I mean, I know that uh, traditionally they want to get access to information, which I'm very worried about. The CPSC maintains confidential information that is extremely sensitive. I mean, we do investigations of deaths and injuries associated with products that not only deals with sort of the information from the companies themselves, but a lot of these deal with the most personal moments of people's lives, where we are going into families' homes. We're asking them about what happened to their children, about the deaths of and how it happened. And we need that information to figure out whether there's a defect. And if there's a defect, how do we get a recall or how do we put a rule together? But that's information for us. That's not information that we want or should be shared with anybody else. And to the extent that we have others coming into the agency demanding to see information, those are the kinds of sensitivities that I raised as concerns about having outsiders coming into the agency to look at that. And so, if they go true to form, they'll be wanting to look at everything that we have, and then it's looking at what the agents should be going forward. Clearly, we have indications with the desire to put us in HHS. Nothing good, I think, can come of that. Really, there's this exact reason why we should be, and we are an independent agency, to be able to step back and so we can do our work without any undue influence that politicizes our actions.
And given the sensitivity of the information we hold about gruesome injuries and deaths in personal medical situations, there are legal protections in law that restrict our agency's ability to share that, and for very good reason, because we don't want those getting out. I asked the general counsel of our agency to do an assessment for each of the pools of data that we have. What are our legal restrictions? If somebody comes in asking for this, are we allowed to give it to them, or are we legally blocked from doing it? Been asking for that for weeks, never received it. I sure as heck hope they found out the answers to those questions before they granted access to the folks who are in the building right now.
And one of the other questions I see in the chat is, what are your next steps as commissioners in response to this?
Head to the courtroom doors.
I agree. I'm looking at all options at this point in time to figure out how to both get back to do the job that I should be doing and to make sure that the agency stays strong going forward.
Yeah. Immediate plans. I've got to coach my son's football practice tonight. But after that, get to work on that lawsuit.
Another question from Alan Korn.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Thank you. Mr. Commissioners, can you learn anything by what's happened that's very similar at the Federal Trade Commission?
Yes, potentially. I think for litigation purposes, we will absolutely learn something there. Their case and a couple of the other cases with the Merit Systems Protection Board and the NLRB are farther along in litigation process. They have the same types of protections against removal as we do. And so the lower courts are upholding the law, and we'll see what happens with those when we get to the Supreme Court. In terms of what happens when DOJ comes in, you should look up the guys who they sent in there. Their names are Justin Fox and Nate Kavanaugh. Plenty of articles about these guys. They are henchmen. When they come in, they tear places apart. And so I am fearing the worst right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the things that we've seen over at the FTC are the same sorts of things that I'm worried about over at the agency, which is when you're independent, when you have multiple perspectives on the commission, you have us watching ourselves and making sure that if we're falling behind, if we're not doing something, somebody's going to speak up. You lose that when you have either somebody in control from the outside, which we have potentially with DOJ and others, or you have a lack of diversity on the commission itself, whether that means there's a favored company that's not going to have a recall come out of it, or whether or not there is science that people don't like for whatever reason, and therefore is not going to be followed on and used. Those are the risks you see. Those are the opportunities and questions that we can ask when we're inside that we may never know without that kind of diversity across the commission. And we're seeing that at the FTC, as you said.
Perfect. Well, commissioners, Ranking Member Schakowsky, Trista, Janet, thank you so much for participating in today's telepresser. We hope that this was very informative. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to send them to maggieo@nclnet.org. If you need that email, it is the very top pinned email in the comment. In the chat, rather. Other than that, again, thank you all for attending this press conference on this very important issue. We appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.